So Tna Impact took place once again from Orlando, Florida. The show starts with Kurt Angle coming to the ring. Angle says that last year was the shittiest that he's ever had, ranging from his battle with Aces and Eights to his personal crap. He says that his expectations as an athlete are why he declined the Hall of Fame induction and why he must earn it again. Angle says that he is known as a cybernetic machine, but he didn't resemble that last year. Angle is about to say what he wants to do in the new year when Robert Roode comes to the ring. Roode wants to know if Angle is going to announce his retirement. He says that since Angle has lost to him so many times, maybe he doesn't have the drive to compete. Roode says that if Angle is going to shut it down, he should admit that he owns him. Angle says that he's not going anywhere and wants another match with Roode. Roode can't believe Angle's demand and denies him because he has no reason to face him again. He says that the better man proved that Angle does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Roode turns to leave, but then he stops before stepping through the ropes. He returns to Angle and says that he'll face him again, but only if Angle gives up his career and the opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame if he loses. Angle says that he and Roode will meet at Genesis, but adds that it will be a steel cage match. Roode accepts the stipulation and turns to walk away, but he tries to clock Angle. Angle blocks the punch and the two start brawling. They are separated by referees and generic security. Rockstar Dud comes into the ring, and after getting thumped on his ass by Angle, he says that Roode and Angle are not going to trash Dixie Carter's night. He says that Roode and Angle will have to find partners because they will meet in a tag team match later in the show. Good opening segment with the Roode Angle program now moving toward what looks to be an exciting conclusion. There was no point of having Rockstar Dud come down and sap some of the energy from the segment, but there was no major damage. The brawling and the mob breakups are becoming a bit redundant, but the fact that Angle now has the pressure on him to win or lose everything keeps the anticipation as to whether he can finally beat Roode at a satisfying high. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage. She has just recorded a spot in which she puts over Magnus being the best world champion in the history of the company when one of her flunkies hands her a delivered letter. The letter states that an unknown will be seeing her later in the show. She goes looking for Rockstar Dud, and then we see Dixie again backstage with Rockstar Dud, and she gives him the mystery letter and tells him to find out if this someone is screwing with her head or has intentions of wrecking her plans for the coronation of Magnus. TNA Telegraphing, Part 1. So then we see Gail Kim in the ring with Lady Tapa. Gail says that 2014 signifies the restart of her open challenge. She says that she ruled last year and she hopes to have some worthy competitors because the challengers so far have not been on her level. Then Madison Rayne comes to the ring. So, because of that, we have the women's match. Gail Kim versus Madison Rayne. Okay match. The match ends with Gail going for the eat defeat on Madison, but Madison counters with a backslide pin. However, Gail kicks out. They both collide with clotheslines, and after both women get to their feet, Madison hits Gail with a series of forearms. She whips Gail off the ropes and hits her with a forearm thrust. Madison follows that with a clothesline and a drop kick. She charges Gail in the corner and hits her with a body blow. Madison charges the corner a second time, but Gail sidesteps her. However, Madison stops her momentum and goes to the middle rope, pulling Gail to her. Gail lifts Madison onto her shoulders and slams her down to the mat face first. She attempts to eat defeat for a second time, but Madison catches her with a side roll for the pin. The winner of the match, Madison Rayne. Gail Kim's Open Challenge was supposed to be about finding fresh female talent for the women's division. TNA could have simply just brought back Madison without using the Open Challenge as a ploy to showcase her return. Once again, TNA takes a promising concept and executes it poorly, as they did with Gut Check. When are they going to realize that recycling the same names is not going to rebuild this division? Either they don't care, they're too lazy, or they're that incompetent. So then we see Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky backstage. As Sabin chooses not to look at her, he tells her that if she tunes in to what he says and follows his orders, he will regain the X Division title. If not, he will make his exit from the venue alone. So then we see Kurt Angle and Gunner backstage. Angle says that this year he will get his shit together and finally get a win over Robert Roode. He wants Gunner to be his partner for the tag team match because he's in a position to become the next world title holder. Gunner appreciates the words from Angle and agrees to team up with him. James Storm enters, snickers at the thought of Angle and Gunner being a team, and leaves. So then we have the X Division Championship. Austin Aries defending against Chris Sabin, accompanied by Velvet Sky. Solid match. The match ends with Aries hanging upside down in the corner as Sabin chokes him with his boot. Aries pulls himself up, but Sabin hits him in the back and pushes him back down. Aries pulls himself up again, and Sabin once again hits him in the back. As Sabin pushes him back down, Aries kicks him in the head. He repeats the kick, grabs hold of Sabin's head, and pushes himself off the turnbuckle to deliver a neckbreaker. Aries throws blows at Sabin, but Sabin kicks him in the midsection and comes off the ropes. However, Aries catches him with a discus punch that sends Sabin out of the ring. Aries goes to the top rope and comes down on Sabin with a double sledge. He throws Sabin back in the ring, and as he goes to the top rope, Sabin barks at Velvet to come in the ring and help him. She refuses, and Sabin turns to receive a missile drop kick from Aries. Sabin gives Velvet an order to distract Aries, and she walks around to the side of the ring where Aries is about to launch himself from the corner. She climbs up on the ring apron and Aries confronts her. Sabin comes up from behind, low blows Aries, and rolls him up in a small package for the three. The winner of the match, Chris Sabin. He is the new X Division champion. And after the match, he thanks himself for his victory. For two people who are a real-life couple, Sabin and Velvet have no chemistry on screen. And that doesn't help their lack of progression. Sabin is still the douchey dick, and Velvet is still in her reluctant, confused state. They should have moved well beyond that by now, with Sabin being more aggressive and angrier toward Velvet, and Velvet being more resistant and pissed off at him. They can still do that, and they need to do it if this is going to work. As for Aries, what was the point of putting the belt on him only to take it off him 3 weeks later without even seeing him on the show? Aries has been underutilized for the past several months, and it's disgraceful. Something has to be going on backstage with him and TNA Creative, because the man who is arguably the best overall talent in the company should not be treated this way. So then we see Rockstar Dud backstage going over his dialogue for the coronation. Dixie's phone rings, and it's obviously her phone because her lame theme song is the ringtone. Dud answers, but the person hangs up. Then he mentions that the number of the caller has a 678 area code, and that he has been getting calls from that area code. TNA Telegraphing Part 2. TNA needs to start accepting the fact that some of their fans don't read spoilers. If they thought that way, then they would allow those fans to be surprised by who would eventually show up rather than make it that obvious. So then we had Sam Shaw versus Norv Furnham. Before the match, Shaw escorts Christy Hemme out of the ring and has her take a seat by the ring entrance. Shawn wins in a squasher. Now, I mentioned in the previous analysis that whether Shaw gets over would depend on his entrance music, his ring gear, his moveset, and his finisher. He needs new entrance music because what they played for him doesn't fit him. His ring attire, I get it, considering his character, but I don't know if it'll get over with fans. His moveset, he didn't have one, but that's a wait and see for future matches. I do like the finisher that he applied on Fernum, the standing arm triangle choke. It fits him because it's a submission hold that makes his opponent look like a helpless victim, and that feeds back into his persona. Christy Hemme sold her slight disgust for him well, and that only makes him look better. With some minor changes, Sam Shaw will be a promising wrestler to watch. So then we see James Storm backstage. Storm is asked about Kurt Angle and Gunner being tag team partners. He says that it isn't shocking because his past tag team partners are never who he thought they were. Storm says that he's an expert at tag team wrestling and that he will make Angle see that teaming up with Gunner will be the same error that he feels he made. Then he opens a door and sees someone that he wants to talk to. So then we see Robert Roode backstage. Roode acknowledges to an unknown that he has enough to deal with in relation to his match with Kurt Angle at Genesis, as well as the tag team match on the show. He tells the unknown why he should take him as his partner and give his trust, rather than the other two wrestlers he's considering. The unknown is James Storm. Yes, shocking. And Storm tells Roode that he can't stand him, but he needs to be in the match to let Gunner know what's up. Roode tells him that he doesn't care about that and that he never had need for him and doesn't have it now. Storm tells him that either he will be Roode's partner or he'll whip up on everybody. There was really no need for TNA to try to create this mystery about whom Roode's partner was going to be. Once Angle chose Gunner, it was already clear. So then we had the tag team match. Kurt Angle and Gunner versus Robert Roode and James Storm. Good match. The match ends with Roode and Storm delivering a double suplex on Gunner. Storm locks Gunner in an armbar, which leads to a short exchange of punches. Gunner sends Storm across the ring and hits the mat. Storm comes off the ropes, jumps over Gunner, and comes off the opposite ropes. They collide and both men go down. Gunner makes the tag to Angle, but the ref fails to see the tag and sends Angle back. Angle moves past the ref and clotheslines Roode. He knocks Storm off the ring apron and clotheslines Roode again. Roode swings at Angle, but Angle ducks and delivers a double German. Storm charges with a clothesline, which Roode and Angle both duck, and Angle responds with an overhead belly-to-belly suplex on Storm. This leads to what I'm going to call the quote-unquote finisher finish. Storm goes for a super kick to Angle, but Angle catches his foot and applies the ankle lock. Roode hits Angle from behind, sending him out of the ring. Gunner lifts Roode up and locks in the torture rack. Storm super kicks Gunner, causing him to drop Roode. Roode takes advantage of a staggering Gunner and executes the fireman's carry cutter to get the 3. The winner of the match, Robert Roode and James Storm. After the match, Angle hits Roode from behind and goes for the Angle slam, but Roode escapes. Storm lays Gunner's world title briefcase on top of him before leaving. I don't know why Gunner brought his world title briefcase to the ring for this match. That had nothing to do with getting a world title shot. But I thought he was impressive in the match. I liked how the physical interaction between Roode and Angle was kept to a minimum because that only increases the build for their match at Genesis. Now, just because Roode and Storm were partners didn't mean that it would be an official beer money reunion. They didn't come out together to their old theme music. When Roode and Storm did the double suplex, they didn't do their beer money shtick. Since TNA is selling them as two guys who don't like each other, they couldn't very well have them pretend to do so for this match. So then we see Sting walking backstage, and he is approached by Rockstar Dud. Dud accuses Sting of being the one responsible for the letter to Dixie and the phone hang-ups. Sting says that he wants to have a conversation with Dixie's lappy and leaves. So then we see Ethan Carter III come to the ring. Ethan says that he changed wrestling last year and that Dixie prepared him well by putting him in the ring against the best opponents. He says that his critics have questioned the quality of the wrestlers that he has faced, but he points out that he pinned Sting last week. He challenges Jeff Hardy to a match, knowing that Hardy isn't there. Christy Hemme introduces Hardy, but of course, no Hardy. Ethan says that he will count Hardy out, but as he gets to the count of 9, Sting comes to the ring. Sting tells Ethan that he's not going to let him dump on Hardy, but Ethan says that since he pinned Sting, he has nothing to say to him. Sting says that Ethan won't face him in a match because he chooses to be Dixie's lappy. Ethan tells Sting that his mind games aren't going to work, and then Sting chases him out of the ring. And as Ethan leaves, Sting repeats that Ethan is Dixie's lappy. Ethan appears to continue to leave, but he goes back toward the ring and accepts Sting's challenge. Sting prepares to mix it up, but then Ethan says that he will meet Sting at Genesis and leaves for good. This was a good segment because this storyline has been kept simple. Sting being pissed about Ethan's entitlement and wanting to beat his ass for it. Sting was effective, and Ethan is improving a bit, but he's not there yet. However, this was a good continuation toward their eventual match. So then we had Bully Ray versus Dumbass Joseph Park. Prior to this match, Bully Ray threatened to set Park on fire. TNA shouldn't tease something that they know they can't do. By the way, why isn't this match Abyss versus Bully Ray? I thought Abyss was back permanently and Park was gone for good. That's what I kept hearing. The bell rings and Bully Ray just stands in the corner with his head down and his hands in the pockets of his hoodie. Park cautiously approaches him. Bully Ray raises his head and Park gets close enough for Bully Ray to kick him in the balls. Park goes down. The ref rings the bell. The winner of the match by DQ. Dumbass Joseph Park. Bully Ray douses Park with lighter fluid and takes out a lighter. Then Ken Anderson comes running to the ring, and Bully Ray sprays lighter fluid on him. He holds a flame at Anderson, but then he backs away and leaves the ring. First of all, Spike TV would never allow anyone to be set on fire, so don't put that temptation out there. This was so over-the-top dumb. Note to TNA. Stop playing a wrestler's theme music when he or she does a run-in. It's lame. And it looks worse when a wrestler waits for his music to play when someone is supposedly about to be set on fire. Then the standoff between Anderson and Bully Ray was even worse, as they both just stood there. Oh, I don't know, Mr. Anderson. How about knocking Bully Ray's lighter out of his hand? Also, if Bully Ray was going to make someone burn, why didn't he attempt to do that? I like the evolving of Bully Ray's character, but this segment was horrid. One more note. It was interesting in a ridiculous way to hear Mike Tenay and Taz say that they could smell the lighter fluid when they are doing their commentary in a post-production studio. So then we see Rockstar Dud, Ethan Carter III, and Props in the ring for the coronation of the new world champion, Magnus. I'm going to fast forward to Magnus because Dud, Ethan, and Dixie became immediate cures for insomnia. Magnus says that he is both appreciative and modest about being the champion, but he says it still bothers him that fans wanted someone other than him to be the top guy. Magnus says that he made the choice to not give a damn about the fans because they chose to not give a damn about him. He says that he will never be second to anyone ever again and that he will be the champion for as long as he wants. Then, Gunner comes to the ring with his world title shot briefcase. Give this man some new music. Gunner wants his title shot and he wants it now, but Dixie says no. Gunner grabs Rockstar Dud by the neck and tosses him. Ethan charges, but Gunner knocks him down. Magnus comes at him with a clothesline, but Gunner ducks and lifts him on his shoulders. Dud kicks Gunner in the midsection, causing Gunner to drop Magnus, which leads to a double team by Ethan and Dud on Gunner. Magnus looks to hit Gunner with the title belt as Ethan and Dud hold him when AJ Styles slides into the ring behind Magnus. Magnus turns and tries to hit Styles with his belt, but Styles ducks and double clotheslines Ethan and Dud. Ethan and Gunner are now outside the ring, and Styles grabs Dud by the back of the head and sends him over the top rope. Styles and Magnus face each other and both hold their belts up. Then Styles lays his belt on the mat and dares Magnus to come at him. Magnus leaves the ring. Styles tells Dixie to get her lawyers off his ass because he's here with the belt, but he's not going to just give it up. He says that he came back because Dixie is conning the fans with a joke of a world champion. He tells Magnus that in order for him to really be the champion, he has to beat the actual champion, and challenges Magnus to a unification match. Styles says that Magnus should decide whether he's going to be Dixie's bitch or prove to the fans that he is the real champion by accepting Styles' offer. Dixie tells Magnus not to do it, but Magnus tells Styles that he's going to prove that he's the better man next week and takes the challenge. Dixie shrieks, but Magnus tells her that he's going to do it so that no one will question the worth of his title reign. Dixie says that Styles doesn't have a contract, but Magnus tells her that she will give Styles a contract for next week. She tells Magnus that she can't take the risk, but he says that he has to take it. Styles extends his hand, but we don't see if Magnus shakes it. Show ends. So, it will be settled next week. An undisputed champion will be decided. Some people have questioned why this match is not taking place at Genesis. It's because of the AJ Styles contract situation. The match was supposed to take place at Genesis, but TNA made a decision to have the match take place during the TNA Impact tapings in early December, before Styles' contract expired in mid-December, to avoid an incredible disaster of not having him available for a previously planned unification match at Genesis. Styles' status as world champion will be decided on TV next week. But will his status with TNA be undecided for good? I'm Tazmart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for January 2nd, 2014. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. If you would subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, Tazmart2002, TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email, Tazmart2002@gmail.com. And be sure to watch the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's YouTube channel. If you can't watch us live, you can always watch the archives. In addition to checking out Chuck P's channel, also check out the YouTube channel of our brother Carl Cleveland. Solid show. Solid show. The news has come out that TNA will no longer be holding Impact tapings at Universal Studios because of the scheduling of other projects. That means that the January 9th episode of Impact will be the last before they go back on the road. As of the moment, TNA will tape episodes in Huntsville, Alabama after Genesis, and in the UK when they go over there. If they don't find a new permanent spot after the UK tour ends, they will be back on the road again. Some will see this as a positive from a visual and creative standpoint, as far as being away from the Orlando crowd. But will the financial liability that will grow along with being on the road be worth it? 2014 is supposed to be the year for TNA. Let's hope it's not for the wrong reason. I'm Taskmart 2002. Gone.